Imagine the crisp coastal breeze, the soft rustle of ancient trees, and the quiet magic of painting outdoors in one of the most beautiful countries in the world. Welcome, friends. If you're looking for a moment of calm, inspiration, and a chance to reconnect with nature and creativity, you've come to the right place. In today's video, I'm taking you on a serene journey through the breathtaking landscapes of Ireland, a land steeped in history, myth, and endless artistic inspiration. Last year, I returned to the Emerald Isles for the first time in nearly 4 years. What started as a simple getaway from my busy life in Brighton, England, transformed into 3 unforgettable months of plein air painting, exploring Ireland's stunning east and west coasts and discovering new ways to create art outdoors. Whether you're a fellow artist looking for inspiration to grab your brushes and venture outside, or simply someone who loves the calming beauty of Ireland, this video is for you. So, settle in and let's begin this relaxing journey of art, storytelling, and the magic of plein air painting in Ireland. Ireland is a place that has always held a special place in my heart. Half of my family hails from there, and I feel a deep, almost magical connection to its landscapes, rich history, and mythology. For this trip, Dublin became my home base. From there, I explored the East Coast while painting along the way. I want to take you back to my very first day when I set up my easel in the picturesque coastal town of Dunleary. It was a crisp February day, still very much winter in Ireland, though without the snow. I decided to head into Dunleary Harbour for a quick landscape sketch. The air was cold, but it was mostly sunny, a rare treat in Ireland where rain is usually the default setting. The winds were strong that day. I had to brace myself and hold my easel tight as it nearly blew over multiple times. A few unexpected mishaps happened along the way. Brushes fell and a few things ended up in my paint mixes. But plein air painting is all about adapting to the moment, and I embraced the imperfections. A few friendly locals stopped by to chat with their dogs in tow, curious about what I was painting. These small, heartwarming interactions added to the charm of the day and made the experience even more special. So while the weather wasn't perfect, the conditions for painting were surprisingly good, and my plein air journey in Ireland had officially begun. Next, I decided to set up my easel outside a stunning neo-Gothic mansion in Dunleary called Glandore House. As I passed by, its grand architecture immediately caught my eye. It reminded me of a small castle with its intricate details and old-world charm. One particular section drew me in, a ground floor window framed by vines, giving it a timeless and almost storybook-like feel. I decided it was the perfect subject for my watercolour and gouache paints. As I worked, layering brushstrokes to capture the play of light and shadow, a passerby stopped to watch and even film me painting. Moments like these make plein air painting so special, connecting not just with the landscape, but with the people who inhabit it. Here's the finished piece, a vignette of Glandore House, focusing on the window wrapped in vines. I loved capturing the neo-Gothic details with the soft textures of watercolour and gouache. The interplay of the greens and earthly tones really brought the scene to life. It's always so satisfying to see the final touches come together. And this was a painting that I thoroughly enjoyed and was happy with the end result. On another day, I stumbled upon Monkstown Castle while wandering the streets of Dunleary. tucked away amidst flowers and grassy areas perfect for relaxing. This 15th century tower house has a fascinating history. Built by Cistercian monks to protect their lands, the castle was once part of a monastery established by Saint Maconna after a Viking raid in 798 AD forced monks to relocate here. Over the centuries, the castle changed hands, from the monks to Sir John Travers and later the Viscount of Baltinglass. But its presence remains a powerful reminder of Ireland's rich medieval past. I decided to set up my easel at the gatehouse section of the castle, painting as the golden hues of sunset began to fall. While I worked, a local father and his young daughter were playing nearby. The father stopped to chat and showed great interest in my painting. I didn't quite finish it as I envisioned, but there's something special about painting on location, capturing the fleeting light and moments as they unfold. Next, I spent a day exploring Glendalough National Park with my cousin and his friend. Nestled in the Wicklow Mountains, this stunning landscape is home to ancient monastic ruins, serene lakes, and dense forests. According to legend, it was founded in the 6th century by Saint Kevin, who sought solitude in its valleys. Stories even tell of him befriending animals and living among nature, adding to the mystical charm of the area. Glendalough feels like stepping into a fairy tale, and it's brimming with ideas for future landscape paintings. My next painting trip took me to Killiney Forest, just south of Dublin. I boarded a train on a rainy day, watching the ocean waves roll past the window, feeling ready for the peaceful inspiration awaiting me in the forest. After hiking up from Killiney train station, I found a peaceful spot deep in the forest, surrounded by towering trees. The rain had just stopped, leaving only gentle drops falling from the branches above. I set up my easel and began painting, completely immersed in nature. But as the rain returned, it became too heavy to continue, and I had to finish the final touches later at home. Here's the finished piece, a quiet forest scene with 3 tree trunks framing a misty path. The muted, desaturated tones reflect the rainy atmosphere, giving the painting a soft, tranquil feel. I loved how watercolour and gouache captured the subtle textures of the bark and the damp light filtering through the trees. After exploring Glendalough, I travelled to Ireland's west coast with my Irish auntie and uncle. It was my first time visiting this side of the country, and we came across a breathtakingly remote spot known as the Middle of Nowhere Beach. The beach was completely empty, its wild beauty heightened by the howling winds. My auntie and uncle stayed back in the car, but I couldn't resist stepping onto the sands alone. The sheer force of nature here was mesmerising. Standing there, I felt like I'd stepped back into ancient times, imagining what stories this place might hold. Perhaps it was once a gathering place for ancient Irish clans, or maybe it bore witness to long-forgotten legends of the sea. Off in the distance, an island rose from the waves, its shape resembling a volcano. It felt otherworldly, like something out of a myth. For a moment, I wondered if it could have inspired tales of Atlantis, lost beneath the waves. It's a topic that's always fascinated me. The island became the focal point for my painting as I worked to capture the untamed spirit of the ocean and sky with my watercolour and gouache. Here's the finished painting, a mysterious island rising from the turquoise ocean, framed by soft pink and violet skies. I loved capturing the light reflecting off the wet sand and the bright white highlights of the waves. Watercolour and gouache worked beautifully to create the dreamy, almost otherworldly atmosphere of this stunning, windswept beach. As we left the wild beauty of Ireland's west coast, we began the journey back to County Mayo, a place close to my heart. It's where my Irish grandfather was born and raised, and I couldn't wait to walk in his footsteps and paint in the landscapes he once called home. I next made my way into the Tourmakeady forest in County Mayo, an enchanting place that holds deep personal significance. This is the very forest where my grandfather once roamed as a child, and walking these paths felt like connecting with my roots. The forest is shrouded in legend, said to be home to ancient oak trees that have witnessed centuries of history. Some locals even whisper about the fairies and spirits that still linger among the trees. As I walked through the woods, I was searching for the perfect spot to paint, a place that would capture the spirit of this land, where the past and present seemed to merge. I set up my easel in Tourmakeady forest on a beautiful day, with the sun occasionally streaming through the trees and leaves, casting dappled patterns onto the forest floor. A gentle breeze would sweep through now and then, refreshing and carrying the earthly scents of the woodlands. The scene I chose to paint was a serene forest path, blanketed with fallen leaves, with tree trunks vanishing into the distance. The muted tones of the forest, bathed in this soft light, felt perfect for watercolour and gouache, letting me capture the tranquil essence of the moment. As I painted, a few locals and visitors stopped by to chat, curious about the process. It felt like I wasn't just painting the landscape, I was connecting with the very essence of the place. There was a calmness in the air, and with each brushstroke, I felt like I was bringing a piece of my grandfather's past into the present. The forest, with its quiet magic, seemed to inspire the paint itself, each layer revealing more of the land's mystery. On another day, I returned to Tourmakeady forest again, but this time I had my sight set on painting the beautiful bridge that leads into the forest from the road. I had first noticed it on my way back home after my earlier painting session, and I just knew I had to capture it. There was something timeless about it, like the bridge belonged in a painting, much like the one I had painted 4 years earlier in St. Stephen's Green in Dublin. It evoked the same charm as the bridges painted by the great landscape artists like Claude Monet. I could almost imagine him standing there, easel in hand, finding inspiration in the scene before me. But of course, the weather had other plans. I had to return to this painting not once, but twice, as the rain kept interrupting. It was a little frustrating, but in the end, it only added to the character of the painting. You can still see some of the raindrops that splashed onto the paper, giving the scene an authentic, weathered look. Despite the challenges, it felt like a true plein air adventure, capturing the essence of the bridge and the beauty of the forest in all its ever-changing moods. As I stepped onto the small stone pier in County Mayo, I was struck by the calmness of the lake and the peaceful surroundings. The boats gently bobbled along the bank, and the entire scene felt like a quiet moment in time. It was the perfect place to pause, take in the view, and let the beauty of the environment sink in before the next part of the journey. On yet another day, I set off on a walk through Tourmakeady forest again to paint the beautiful waterfall there. This was a place my grandfather and many members of my family had explored, and I couldn't help but wonder if they'd stood in the same spot I was in, breathing in the same fresh, crisp air, listening to the gentle rush of water. As I made my way down the forest path, the peaceful sounds of nature surrounded me. the rustling of leaves, the soft flow of the stream, and the distant bird song. When I reached the waterfall, I knew this was the perfect spot to set up my easel. The experience of painting right by the waterfall with the cool mist in the air felt like a connection to the past, a moment of reflection, as if I were painting my family's history into the landscape. One other afternoon, I found myself painting this peaceful scene in Mayo, near a small farm. A lone tree leaned into the field, its branches reaching out towards the sky. The calm, open landscape felt timeless, a perfect moment to capture. I chose to focus on the tree, the gentle curve of the field, and the expansive sky above, all of which felt connected to the earth and the past. As I worked, the light changed and I was reminded of the quiet beauty that surrounds us every day. One evening, I found myself in a beautiful field near my aunt and uncle's holiday home in Mayo. The sun was setting and I knew I had to work fast to capture the fleeting light. The stillness of the landscape, with no one else around, made the experience even more special. I focused on the sky, the warm tones of the sunset, and the tree to the left, its branches stretching towards the fading sun. I used larger brushstrokes, moving quickly to cover the canvas, trying to capture the essence of the moment, the colours, the light, and the peaceful solitude of the evening. As the sun began to set over the fields near my aunt and uncle's holiday home in Mayo, it was almost as if I felt the land come alive, and my imagination would sometimes go back to what could have been here in ancient times. This part of Ireland, with its rolling hills and hidden corners, has always been steeped in myth. I couldn't help but wonder if the spirits of the old Celts roamed these fields, where time seemed to slow. The light was fading fast, so I painted quickly, capturing the warmth of the sunset and the silhouette of a lone tree whose branches seemed to stretch towards the heavens. It was a race against time, but the mystery of the landscape and the stillness of the moment made it unforgettable. After my time in Mayo, I returned to Dublin to wrap up my journey. The streets of Dublin, with their energy and history, felt like the perfect way to end my adventure. But I knew there was more to explore. As I gazed out at the coastline, I felt inspired to continue my creative journey, because when you're in Ireland, the beauty never really ends. For my final plein air painting during this trip, I returned to Killiney Beach, a place that had become so meaningful to me. With the sun dipping low in the sky, I had just under 2 hours before sunset, and the waves lapped at the shore as I set up my easel one last time. There was something magical about painting here again, with the ocean stretching out to the horizon and the soft golden light bathing the scene. I couldn't help but reflect on my entire journey through Ireland, the landscapes, the colours, the atmosphere, and how each place seemed to hold a piece of something ancient, a thread of myth and legend running through the hills, the cliffs, the forests and woodlands, and the shorelines. As I painted, the wind gently tousling my hair, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing in a place where so many before me had stood, where stories had been told and legends had been born. Ireland has that way of making you feel connected to something timeless, something beyond just the physical world around you. It's a place of mystery and wonder, where every view feels like it holds a secret. As I worked, a passerby approached, just as they had so many times before. They stopped to ask about my painting and asked if they could film me working. Another unexpected moment of connection. These little interactions, whether with friendly locals or curious visitors, are what made plein air painting so special for me. It's not just about the painting, it's about sharing the experience and being fully in the moment, the joy of being part of a moment in time, something that you remember in vivid detail in this beautiful, mythical land. The sea, the sky, and the rugged coastlines of Ireland have truly inspired my art in ways I never expected. And though this was the last painting of my trip, I knew the journey had only just begun. Back home, I would continue to work, to draw, and to remember the magic of Ireland in every stroke of the brush. As my time in Ireland drew to a close, I took a quiet walk through the forest path in Bray, reflecting on the landscapes I had painted, the connections to my heritage, and the memories of this incredible journey. While this chapter was coming to an end, my creative adventure was far from over. Now I'll show you some of my other paintings I worked on indoors during my stay on rainy days in Dublin, each one capturing a piece of the magic I experienced here. For my St. Stephen's Green painting, this painting is one of my personal favourites from my time in Ireland. I painted it 4 years ago in St. Stephen's Green, capturing the serene bridge surrounded by lush greenery. At the time, an Italian girl who'd been watching me paint said it reminded her of a bridge painting by none other than Claude Monet. After she left, 2 other girls sat beside me, one of whom was also an artist. She decided to join me, painting in her sketchbook with her watercolours. It was such a peaceful, creative moment, sharing the experience with others in the heart of Dublin. This painting has since become a cherished memory of mine, and I'm so glad it now hangs framed in my cousin's home. During my time in Dublin, I found inspiration in the hidden corners of Ireland, places that feel like they've been untouched by time. One of these places was a beautiful waterfall tucked away in the landscape. While the waterfall itself was based on a photo reference, it still carried the essence of Ireland's wild, untamed beauty, evoking the feeling of a place steeped in legend. As I painted, I imagined the waterfall as part of Ireland's ancient mythological world, the kind of place where the Tuatha Dé Danann, Ireland's mythical gods and goddesses, might have once walked. I imagined the sound of water cascading over moss-covered rocks that seemed to carry echoes of those forgotten tales. I focused on capturing the lush, green surroundings with the vibrant blues of the waterfall contrasting beautifully with the warm, complementary greens of the plants that framed it. The scene felt peaceful, yet full of life, as if the landscape itself were holding a story just waiting to be told. In Irish mythology, waterfalls are often seen as gateways to the otherworld. As I painted, I couldn't help but feel a deep connection to that mythical tradition. It was a moment of stillness and reflection, where the present seemed to fade away, leaving only the whispers of ancient stories. Working with watercolour and gouache, I layered the colours to reflect the depth and serenity of this magical place. On the West Coast seascape painting. This seascape, painted indoors in Dublin, reminded me of the legend of Tir na Nog, the mythical land of eternal youth said to lie beyond the Irish Sea. The pink and turquoise skies blend with the glowing orange sunlight on the water, evoking a dreamlike realm. As I painted, I imagined the whispers of ancient tales carried on the waves, connecting this serene moment to Ireland's timeless myths and the mysteries of the West Coast. Looking at this, I can't help but think of the legend of High Brazil, the mythical island said to appear off Ireland's west coast every 7 years, hidden in mist. Could it be that such beauty like this sunset is where myths like that are born? Redhead portrait. This is my first watercolour and gouache portrait that I did in Ireland. A Celtic woman with flowing red hair, painted in watercolour and gouache while staying in Dublin. Red hair in Celtic mythology symbolises power and mysticism, often tied to warrior queens and fiery spirits. Painting her felt like capturing a piece of Ireland's ancient magic. Here's a closer look at the portrait. The fiery red hair flowing like flames, blending into soft gouache textures. Her gaze is calm yet powerful, evoking the strength and mystery of Celtic women in mythology. The details reflect Ireland's timeless beauty and spirit. Maroon and orange portrait. For this other portrait I painted in watercolour and gouache, I was drawn to the rich maroon and orange tones of the original photo. It was a chance for me to experiment with my watercolour and gouache techniques, focusing on capturing the vibrant contrast between warm shades and delicate skin tones. A simple yet rewarding study in blending colour and light. Here's another piece from my previous trip to Ireland, painted 4 years ago in Dunleary. This one is of the iconic Maritime Museum, an incredible building with so much history. And finally, in a short 3-second clip, is a plein air painting of Malahide Beach, which is just north of Dublin, painted during my last trip to Ireland. I loved capturing the tranquil waves and sandy shore whilst sitting on a bench by the beach alone with my watercolour and gouache, and I'm thrilled to say that it's now in the hands of a local Irish lady who purchased it through my website. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through Ireland, where I painted landscapes, portraits, and moments that have inspired me deeply. If you've enjoyed seeing how these paintings came together, I'd love for you to share your thoughts or ask any questions in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more painting adventures and creative insights. I'm always looking for new landscapes to inspire my art. And if you're an artist looking for tips on how to stay inspired and productive, be sure to grab my free guide, Maintain Artistic Flow and Productivity, linked in the description. It's packed with strategies to keep you painting even when life gets busy.